What's up? This is the View from Legacy View Comic Book Series, and this is Chillin the Green Box. And on today's show, we got the writer and creator of the World of Dracula comic book series, Rich Davis, on the show today to talk about all his books, his screenwriting, and the whole world he's planning on building. So y'all a fan of any kind of the old school monsters, Dracula, Frankenstein, werewolves, all that stuff, tune in, listen to this podcast, and tell your folks to like, subscribe, and share. And I'm out.
Welcome back to the Hood. This is Chillin Green Box with Specks, Thompson, and View. And on today's show, we got amazing guests with us, Rich Davis. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
No problem, problem. For people who don't know who you are or what you do, give them a little brief introduction about you.
Yeah, so I am the writer-creator of the World of Dracula comic book series. That's Cult of Dracula, Rise of Dracula, Reign of Dracula, and my latest book, Prometheus in Chains. Trade paperback just hit stores in December, so you can find all my books in comic book stores and anywhere Simon and Schuster books are sold. So Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, all those places. And I've got a new book coming out later this year called Angel Hunter. It is a seinen manga inspired dark fantasy told in the American comic book style about humanity's first strides after being expelled from Eden. They have to claw out an existence in a world dominated by the 13 fallen angels and an army of kaiju Nephilim.
Okay. Yeah, we get more into all that later on.
Sure.
Are you familiar, when growing up, you had the electrical green boxes in front of your neighborhood?
Green boxes? No.
Well, in some neighborhoods, I don't know what regional you in yet. Be getting that later on the show, but
Okay.
Where I'm in Georgia, and we got these electrical green boxes that sit near probably light poles or in between like every 3 or so houses. And just doing my show and talk to my guests. I found out. Well, we used to hang out on those, growing up.
Okay.
And found out that the reason we hung out at those because those probably was the bus stops as well. So we go there to go to school, and we just meet up with everybody afterwards.
Nice.
So I developed my show based off that same concept because I listened, been on, watch plenty of podcasts. A creator gets on there for 2 hours and talk about whatever they got going on, and you have no reason why to support them or who they even are. So
right.
I developed my show so people know more about the creator, and they have a reason why I support them, not only on whatever they're doing at that point in time, and also in future projects as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, man. I grew up like way out in the sticks in a really rural area in Middle Tennessee. So we didn't have green boxes. The nearest neighbor was like 2 miles away.
Okay. Okay. We get in that later.
Yeah.
But I got 4 different segments. All based around that concept. My first one is called Breaking It Down. And because while you're showing that green box with your friends, you broke down ideas, dreams, concepts, and other things down. So in this segment, I'm going to break your brain down so we know more about you.
Okay. I like it.
All right. So since you are a Dracula guy, what's be your, besides yours, what's your best rendition of Dracula?
Man, that's a tough one, especially since Nosferatu just came out. That one leapt way up my list. I thought it was a damn near perfect film. Absolutely brilliant. I love Coppola's Dracula from '92. That one probably had the most profound impact on me personally because I was a little too young to be watching it, but I was of that age where that movie really hit with me. And I really do enjoy the Hammer films, the Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing movies from the 60s and 70s. I used to there was this little television station out of Nashville, Tennessee, and on Friday nights they do all those B horror movies, kind of like an Elvira ripoff thing,
Okay.
And I would sneak and I mean, my dad knew I was awake, but I thought I was being all sneaky, and I'd go in the living room and I would watch those movies until 1, 2 in the morning on Friday nights. So those will always have a special place in my heart too. But yeah, man, Dracula's been a part of my life since I was a kid. I've always just been absolutely fascinated with the character, fascinated with vampires in general. And they haunt my nightmares, and that's why they make it into my books.
Okay. How do you feel about the Netflix series of Dracula that was out?
I enjoyed it. The first 2 episodes I thought were great. The third episode got a little weird. But overall, I really did enjoy that series quite a bit. It really surprised me the second episode, which is where they're on the Demeter, and that turned out to be a really, really good episode. I'm always down for any kind of Dracula adaptation, but that one I really did enjoy a lot.
Yeah, that one gave me a new mindset of Dracula.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I never thought about that,
Right, yeah. And then that third episode where Lucy's being burned alive when she's being cremated. Now that is an image that will be burned into my nightmares for the rest of my life. That was terrifying.
Yeah. Surprised they didn't get the second season or third season or anything.
Right. They've done so much more with it. There was plenty of story to tell, and I thought they did a really good job with it. But who knows? Maybe they'll circle back and revisit it again later.
Yep. Okay. Next question: what would be your best item to have in I guess horror apocalypse situation? We know the undead rises.
Okay. The best item to have. Okay. So
I give you 2 items. I give you 2 items. You can have 2.
2 items. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we actually, Jonathan Mabry, he's a writer. I did a workshop with him, and we were talking about how to survive a zombie apocalypse, and like everybody took this stuff seriously. And so we decided that the best weapon to have is a katana. Because it's fast, it doesn't run out of ammo. Pretty much anybody can use it to a basic degree, and it also has a utilitarian purpose if you need to cut a rope or something like that. So I'd definitely say a katana would be the number 1 item to have. And it sounds super simple and super basic, but a flashlight. Got to have a flashlight, because I've seen way too many horror movies where you end up going down these dark tunnels and basements and you can't see crap. So yeah, flashlight and a katana, and I think I could survive the zombie apocalypse.
See, you say katanas and you see one laying around, and while you're doing your travels and you pick it up, you go to use it, and it's one of them dull ones from the gas station.
Yeah, you're like, come on.
Yeah.
That never works.
Yeah. Being a writer, what's your best? Besides, I guess, Dracula, what's your best story to read? What story you like to read?
I actually I really enjoy Jane Austen, and works from that time period. Northanger Abbey is a great gothic horror. Sense and Sensibility, Emma, Pride and Prejudice, of course. Which when I start talking about Jane Austen, people they don't expect that, because I'm a horror guy, primarily for writing horror. But I like the romantics as well. I love to read. I'm an avid reader. But yeah, even though I know those are kind of oddly juxtaposed, Victorian horror and romantic period literature, I really enjoy those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a writer. I do comic books and superhero stories. Yeah. But one of my favorite books is The Great Gatsby. So
oh man, yes, that's a wonderful book, man. It really is. There's so much to it. And the Leonardo DiCaprio movie wasn't too bad either. It was fun, at least.
Well, since it was one of my favorite books, one thing they say is hard to interpret that book into a film. Yeah. So the old one from whenever, that was almost completely different from the newer one. But it's the same story.
Same story, focusing on different angles, different characters, and different plot lines. It's amazing how one teeny tiny little choice can completely change the way you present a story. And, they're both beautiful adaptations, but for completely different reasons.
Yeah, I seen one post online that says when they travel past that gas station, in the middle, it's really like a time thing. It's a different time paradoxes.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Wow. That's a mind bender.
Because the school concept teaches you is old money, new money.
Yeah.
But that guy, female who it was, saying 2 different time periods they travel back and forth.
Yeah, I like that. I'll have to watch it again and look at it from that angle. I like that.
Yep. Because I guess from the style clothes they wear, they're more relaxed on the one side and versus the other one.
Yeah.
They're more dressed up.
Yeah, that makes sense actually. Yeah. Wow. You just gave me an entirely new life to see that movie.
Yeah. But that's all the questions I got for that. Moving to my next segment, it's called the back issues. Being in comics, all about back issues. What people who don't know is what you want to know a character's origin story. You read his back issues. Okay. So, for example, you want to know about Dracula. You read his back issues. With Blade and Morbius and all that in Marvel or DC renditions.
Yep.
In this case, we go to your back issues to find out more about your origin story. So, with that being said, where are you from, and what do you call your hood?
Okay. So I am from a teeny tiny little town in the dead middle of Tennessee, in the dead middle of nowhere. It's called Sparta. Most people would recognize it as a suburb of Cookeville. Cookeville's where Tennessee Tech University is, so it's fairly well known. But yeah, I'm a Tennessee boy. Rocky Top will always be home to me. I recently moved back here. I went to college in North Carolina, lived on the beach in Wilmington for 15 years, worked in film, worked in theater while I was there. Loved the beach, but the mountains just kept calling to me, and I moved back here in 2017. And it was hard to trade off the beach for the mountains, but it's worth it. I don't know. I didn't realize how much I missed being out in the country. Because I lived in urban areas for 20 years almost. And so moving back here, I'm currently living on my grandparents' old farm. And I mean, it is, when I say it's out in the sticks, man, it is way out in the sticks. And, you go outside and it's just so eerily quiet, it's almost too quiet. And then, you'll hear a coyote yip or a wolf howl or something like that, and scares the hell out of you. But then you start thinking, wow, that is beautiful. So yeah, man, Rocky Top, Tennessee, that's always home.
Okay. What's the sound difference from the mountains and the beach? Is it really that dramatic difference?
Dramatic difference. I mean, so when you live on the beach, people think of the waves, that's obviously the big thing you think of. But the biggest thing I missed when I moved back to Tennessee was the sound of seagulls. You get used to them when you're on the beach, man. You hear them all the time, and it just becomes a part of that background noise, and when you get here, there's no seagulls here. And then one time, this was right after, I forget what hurricane it was, but a hurricane had gone through North Carolina, and I was here. I was actually in Knoxville, and I heard a seagull, and it just shocked me. I froze, and I looked up, and there was a seagull, and I was like, dude, you got blown so far off course. I don't know if you're going to make it back. But it was a really cool experience, and it reminded me of how much I miss those damn seagulls.
Dang, that's cool. Comic books. What comic book related TV show or comic book got you into comics?
Oh man, that's a good one. Because you're so I've always been an Amazing Spider-Man guy. I love Spidey. Captain America I've always enjoyed because my grandfather was a Marine, and to me, he was Captain America. But I think the two television series that really got me to love comic books was X-Men, the animated series, and Batman, the animated series. I don't know which one of those was the most important because I watched both of them every single day. And I just absolutely adored them. Probably, I don't know, probably X-Men had the biggest impact on me about the way I structure my stories. Okay. And Batman probably had the most influence on the aesthetic that I like to write with. So those two very seminal television shows when I was a kid. And then as far as like the comic books themselves, Age of Apocalypse, that first X-Men run of Age of Apocalypse was, it showed me so many unique ways to tell stories and so many interesting ways to handle characters. I absolutely adore that one to this day. McFarlane's, Venom, that's just, I can't remember a time really when Spidey was much better than that. That was a really good time to be reading Amazing Spider-Man. And Garth Ennis's Punisher Max, that had a really huge impact on how I can deal with violence in a very raw way without being exploitative and a shock jock with it. Ennis, I don't know how he wields violence so poetically in his work. But that man's a genius when it comes to violent, terrible things.
Okay. Music. I know you're talking about how peaceful it is out there in the country, but what music or artist or song got you liking music?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So when I was a kid, mom and dad both loved music. So I grew up listening to, they'd play records. They'd play, even though, I was, records weren't a thing when I was a kid, but my mom and dad still played vinyl records. I guess they were the original hipsters. I don't know. But I really remember very vivid memory. My dad had this old, it's like a 1984 Dodge Ram pickup, and it had this thing in the floor where you would lift this little door and the wind from outside would blow in, Yeah. And I would sit in the floorboard of his truck, and we'd be riding around up here, the back roads, of rural Tennessee, and the song Copperhead Road. He would play it, and he just loved it, and he would sing with it and everything. And that's probably the strongest musical memory I have in my life. I can see that vividly. And I think it's moments like that really make me love music. It's the songs are obviously they're great, but the connections that we make with people and those memories that we form around the music, I think that's what I love about it the most.
Okay. Do you ever incorporate any music in your works?
Definitely. Music's a big part of my writing process. What I'll generally do when I sit down at my desk to write every day, I'll choose usually 3 songs that are kind of like my soundtrack for whatever I'm going to be writing that day, and I'll put them on loop, and I just listen to them over and over and over and over again. It's kind of hypnotizing, and it really puts me into that mood. And it can be random music that inspires me. Like when I was writing Rise of Dracula, for example, I was stuck. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was trying to work this scene out. I knew I had to do this, and I was just randomly playing music on Spotify, and I heard this dubstep version of ABBA's Dancing Queen, and for whatever reason, that just triggered in my head roller derby disco in hell. And boom, right there, that whole scene in Rise of Dracula just completely unfolded while I was listening to that song.
Wow.
There was another time I was listening. This was when I was writing Reign of Dracula. There's a song by I think they're some kind of Scandinavian band called Brothers of Metal, and the song's Yggdrasil. I'm writing this big like battle scene. Like the first really battle I've ever written was in Reign of Dracula, and there's this really cool part in the song where it's a guitar solo, and you hear this where he's hitting the guitar, and you hear this, and I'm saying, oh, that sounds like a helicopter. And so I see in my mind, I see this helicopter flying up over the White House, and then just, with a big like 50 caliber gun, just opening fire. And, and so that song triggered the entire, basically the entire second half of Reign of Dracula issue 1, because it's that whole big battle there. Writing Cult of Dracula, Crimson and Clover, really was a big influence there. And House of the Rising Sun, that was kind of my theme song for Cult of Dracula, because it really kind of captured that Southern Gothic reclusive vibe that I needed for Cult. So yeah, man, music plays a huge role in my writing.
Dope. And last question this segment. Seeing you're such a horror fan, and you're into comics and whatnot, when did you find out that you're a nerd?
Would I find a nerd?
Yeah, when did you find out you was a
nerd? Actually, can you rephrase that one, because I blanked on what you were asking me there. I'm sorry.
So when did you find out you was different from everybody else?
Oh, got it. Okay, now derp. Sorry. Now it makes total sense. I don't know why I didn't hear that. So as far as kind of what separates me from, I guess maybe from other nerds, is I am also a ridiculously huge sports nerd. Most of my friends are like, sports ball, what's that? And man, I'm like, I'm playing in like 5 fantasy football leagues. I've had a dynasty league I've been in for 10 years. I'm watching, I watch baseball, watch basketball, watch football, college football, and it's kind of almost 50-50 my nerddom's there, as far as, sports and, comic books and things like that. I'm kind of a 50-50 type guy, which, with my comic book nerdiness, I don't really fit in with my sports friends. With my sports nerdiness, I don't really fit in with my nerdy friends. So a lot of times I find myself on an island and, don't know where I live.
Being a sports nerd, you do like the Prize Picks, the DraftKings, all that stuff?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. You got to.
Yeah. I just started maybe a month or 2 ago. And I was like, this is almost like, picking like characters to get, you got the stacks like +1 up 2,
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's like, you're almost building it's like building a fantasy football team is like, it's like building a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
And God, this stuff gets addictive too. And I think our nerdy brains are kind of wired toward things like that, and even though they don't seem like they connect, they really do. It's tickles those same impulses in our brains.
I know you playing video games, but I grew up playing video games, like the Madden and the 2K and NBA Live, stuff like that.
Yep.
I took a little break of playing video games. Probably stopped playing them part 2012. I came back like a couple years ago, trying to play NBA 2K. I was like, am I playing NBA 2K or am I playing Final Fantasy?
Right. I mean, my God, yeah, you got to tweak and build and improve, and you get like in Madden, you get those like special little power-up badges, and
perks,
like, yeah, it's like, dude, you really are. You're playing D&D here.
Yeah, I wanted anybody else who strictly play sports games is playing it like they're real dedicated. And it's like, man, I never play Warcraft or something like that. And I'm like, you're basically playing it.
Oh, you are playing that. You just don't realize it.
Yeah, you made your own character. You getting all these special things. You get your different gear.
Yep. I mean, it's D&D. It really is. It's D&D.
Yeah. All right, that's cool. And that's all for that segment. I think go to the meat of the show where everyone wants to know about you and what you do. It's called the hotkeys. Being a double meaning term. In comics, when a new writer, new artist, new storyline get introduced. As well, music is a bunch on a turntable. DJ a press to get everybody turned up and live in the club or party, or same thing a producer press, to make a song better. So this is just key points, talk about what you do. And so my first one is Dracula books. So is it a trilogy or what is it?
So Cult of Dracula began as a when I pitched it to the publishers, I told them, I was like, I can either tell this book or this story as 1 volume of 6 issues or 3 volumes of 18 issues. It has to be one or the other for me to complete the entire story that I wanted to tell. So as is the case with most things in comics, they gave me the shot to do 1 6-issue volume. Cult of Dracula absolutely exploded. It became a top 50 best-selling comic of 2021, nominated for Eisner and Ringo Awards. I won a Rondo Hatton Horror Award. It was optioned for a television series. It was on fire right out of the gate. So the publisher came back to me and they agreed to let me finish the entire trilogy that I wanted to do. And then so while I was working on that, about midway through Rise of Dracula, I had the idea to do a Frankenstein story. And that was Prometheus in Chains. And I decided to link that into my world of Dracula. Kind of the way Stephen King was a huge influence on my life, and he ties everything into his Dark Tower. Well, Dracula is my Dark Tower. Okay. All of my books relate to my Dracula universe in one way or another. And so that's how the world of Dracula was built. So it started as 1 book, it became a trilogy, and now it's become this entire universe, pulling in different horror stories. I've got an anthology planned on different Dracula stories throughout history. But yeah, it's definitely expanded well beyond what I originally intended it to be.
Okay. Who was the publisher?
Source Point Press.
Source Point Press. So So did you reach out to multiple publishers, or you went directly for that one?
Man, I beat the streets and I took it to every publisher I could find. The way I got published was through just sheer persistence and force of will. I started going to conventions and setting up, as many meetings with different publishers as I could. I'd buy them coffee. I'd do a walk and talk, while they're headed from like Artist Alley to a panel. I'd say, hey, can I walk with you and just, chat, and a lot of phone calls, just staying at it, Cult of Dracula actually came out with 2 different publishers. The very first issue came out with a company called Second Sight Publishing.
I know that.
Yeah, it was the very first book they ever published.
Okay.
And it came out of the gate. Nobody in their right mind expected a book from a publisher nobody had ever heard of and a writer seriously nobody ever heard of. Nobody expected it to sell 10,000 copies. Well, it sold 10,000 copies through Second Sight. Second Sight, through no fault of their own, they were great people, but they weren't set up to handle that. And they couldn't handle that volume. They didn't have the distribution set up or anything. And so they were very kind and helped me find another publisher. So I took it to Source Point Press. We had interviews or meetings with several, but Source Point turned out to be the best. I brought it over. They reissued issue 1, and then took issues 2 through 2 through 6 from there, and then Rise and Reign of Dracula, of course, after that. But yeah, man, it's a long slog to get your book picked up by a publisher and distributed to comic book stores. It's not going to be one of those things that happens overnight. It takes a lot of work and a lot of gall and a lot of confidence and, the ability to spin a lot of bullshit.
Did you kickstart it or Indiegogo?
No, I went straight. I funded it completely out of my own pocket, which I have only now after 4 series, 24 issues of comic books that are now available in stores. I finally figured out that funding it out of my own pocket is stupid. So that's why Angel Hunter's going to Kickstarter, but Angel Hunter will be the first time that I've ever done a Kickstarter. SourcePoint did a Kickstarter for a limited edition hardcover edition of Cult of Dracula. It did very well. And then they did a Kickstarter for Reign of Dracula as well, but I didn't run those. And so now with Angel Hunter, that's the first time I'm running a Kickstarter. And Kickstarter is absolutely the smartest way to go, because we're in an era right now where creators don't need publishers and publishers don't need distributors. There's no reason why you shouldn't be going directly to your audience through Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or whatever crowdfunding platform you want to use. You can do, and you can also get into stores that way. I mean, you can do direct market distribution from Kickstarter to retailers, by having a retailer tier on your campaign. So, Kickstarter, it's amazing. It really is. And I wish it was pure ego. The reason it was, I just avoided it because back then in my mind, Kickstarter comics weren't real comics. Real comics are available in comic book stores. And if your book's not in comic book stores, it's not a real comic. That was such a stupid way of thinking, man. It's just pure arrogance and ego. And, now I'm realizing, man, those guys, I mean, as many issues of my World of Dracula series that I've sold, there are guys out there that are making twice that off of one Kickstarter campaign, and it's just Kickstarter's the way to go, man. It really is. And I'm really enjoying my first experience with it. I'm probably screwing everything up, but you learn from those mistakes. It's something I wish I'd have done a long time ago.
Was Cult of Dracula your first book?
Cult of Dracula was my first comic book. My background is in playwriting and screenwriting prior to that. And so Cult was my first comic book.
My show's going on second seasons. I'm getting better and better guests as I go on. And the more I know, prestige guests, I guess. I got screenwriting, and they keep popping up. Screenwriting. Yeah. To the point now, say, hey, maybe I need to get screenwriting so I can make some money. I can make some money.
The thing is, as a comic book writer, you're going to find that your skill set is very well suited for writing screenplays, because writing a comic book script has far more in common with writing a screenplay than it does with writing a prose novel. So I think if you were to try to do screenwriting, you probably would be a natural at it, because, when you're writing a comic book script, you're writing your panels out for your artist to interpret. Mm-hmm. When you're writing a screenplay, you're writing the shots out for a director of photography to interpret.
So would it be the same thing as like I did music videos, so like a video treatment? Would it be the same thing? See, that's what so that helped. So I did video treatments. So when I started doing comics, I was like, it'd be easy for me to just write it like that. So I'd be like, Also, these two characters are fighting, but I want the camera to be angled this high, coming from the ground.
Yep.
And artist is, he said, "Oh, that's easy."
You got it already, man.
Okay.
that's exactly, of course, there's two different ways. You got the Marvel style, which is where, you write a paragraph, and completely loosely leave it up to your artist to interpret. It's like you write, okay, so Daredevil, he walks into Kingpin's office, they're angry, they have a conversation, and they end up fighting. It's kind of the Marvel way to write it. And then your artist just takes it from there. Or, there's the way that you and I kind of write, which is where you're writing shot for shot, wide angle, overhead angle, two shot, stuff like that. So yeah, the skill set for writing a screenplay is so very similar to that of writing a comic book script. They're almost the same thing.
Okay. So you said 2021 is when Code Dracula came out?
Yeah.
So is that issue 1 through Second Sight, or that's through Source Point?
So issue 1 from Second Sight, actually it dropped at the end of 2020, and then it released nationwide through Source Point in the late spring of 2021. I think that's right. Okay. Yeah, it was late spring because all 6 issues were out by the time I went to New York Comic-Con, and Cult of Dracula was the badge art for New York Comic-Con that year. Yeah, so it's mid to late spring was when all 6 issues started coming out nationwide.
Cool. So how many? I know you said you had a couple volumes, but how many issues total do you have?
So there's 24 total issues out from the World of Dracula so far. 6 Cult, 6 Rise, 6 Reign, and 6 Prometheus. Oh, and there's one called Embalming Day. It was a one shot that I did for Blue Juice Comics. So I guess 25 total issues are what I have out in stores right now.
All right. And what rendition of Frankenstein are you using?
Okay, so I gotta say, man, I'm very proud of Prometheus in Chains. It was my take on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein set in the post-World War II atomic age. So back when everybody was excited about the potential of nuclear energy and what Fallout style, Fallout before the bombs, basically. So in this world, Victor and Elizabeth Frankenstein are 2 of the Jewish scientists who fled Nazi Germany in 1939. That part's true. A lot of scientists did that. Came to the U.S., worked on the Manhattan Project. While building the bomb, Elizabeth is exposed to very high levels of radiation. She develops cancer and passes away. And that sends Victor into a spiral of depression, addiction, and an obsession with bringing her back to life. So rather than looking at Victor Frankenstein as just an arrogant prick who conquers death because he can, we look at it as it's his grief that drives him. And I think I came pretty close to making Victor Frankenstein a sympathetic character. And that's not easy to do because Victor's a dick, man. He is absolutely the villain of Frankenstein, and he's just an arrogant jerk, man. So to be able to look at him from a broken, grieving person, I think it was very effective. It was a very personal story for me. My wife passed away in 2020 from kidney disease. And so while Victor's working through his shit in Prometheus, that's me working through my PTSD. And in every issue of Prometheus in Chains, we included the National PTSD hotline because my hope was because as men, we don't talk about our emotions. We're kind of taught not to, but a lot of us, we struggle with PTSD. There's a lot of us out there, but we keep it quiet. And so my hope is that one man reading a book about a character suffering from PTSD, written by a man suffering from PTSD. Rather than picking up a gun, he picks up a phone. And, if that can happen to one person, then everything I went through writing Prometheus and Chains was worth it.
Cool. All right. That's dope, man. Sorry to hear about your wife, too.
No, thank you.
And so your Kickstarter, what you're here for, Angel Hunter, correct?
Yes, sir.
So is that the same universe?
It is. Yes, it is. You won't find out how it's the same universe until about volume 3. But yeah, it's going to tie in. And like I said, just like Stephen King ties things into his Dark Tower, not everything's like overtly, sometimes it's just a little subtle thing. But there's going to be a major scene in volume 3, that's going to connect to, the 4th issue of Cult of Dracula. And so if you followed them all, you're going to get it. And if you haven't read all the other books, it's not a big deal, but my fans are going to know. But yes, everything I write ties in to my world of Dracula in some way or another.
Just reading the stuff you sent me, Clark Kent style, real fast.
Yeah.
So it's an action fantasy.
Yep.
And you said you got the word manga right there. So
yep.
Your other projects are American style, correct?
Yes.
So what makes you choose manga for this one?
I've become actually very obsessed with manga and anime in the past.
So America.
Yes, I know, right? Manga, it's no longer the future, man. It's the now. And it's, I shouldn't say this, but I got bored with superheroes, man. I mean, it's the same 13 stories with different costumes. Nothing matters. I mean, just last year they killed Ms. Marvel. Literally the week that the issue where she died came out, the solicit was in previews. The return of Ms. Marvel. It's like, dude, it's a month, and she's not even really dead. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me. It's like nothing matters in American comics. You kill a character, you bring him back the next issue. I mean, God, they even broke the 11th commandment and brought Uncle Ben back. And that's sacrosanct. Yeah, that you can't bring Uncle Ben back, man. That's sacrosanct.
Some of his parents will be back now.
Exactly. I mean, they're just bringing everybody back. And so I got in, I wanted something new, and so I started watching.
So you haven't been anime or manga reader. You just started.
Yeah. In the last 2 years. Yeah. Based on the last 2 years, I started.
What you said about American comics, it's going to definitely happen with you in manga, but it's different. Like, you get to the point, they be like, oh, this is just Yu Hakusho with space people. You just gonna they use the same tropes over and over again.
Right.
Currently, there's a popular show called Sakamoto Days.
Yes, I've been wanting to watch that. It's on my list to watch on Netflix.
Okay. You ever heard of anime called Rurouni Kenshin?
Yep.
You watched it?
I've watched. Yes, I think I watched the first episode of that one. Yeah, we did. We watched first episode of that one. Yeah.
So I watched that when it came out in America. The original, not the remake or the live action, whatever they got going.
Right.
So to me, Sakamoto Days is just like that show, but in modern times. Because instead of being a samurai assassin back in the feudal Japan days, he's a current assassin. And right. Retired. Instead of going to like a little farm or whatever Rurouni was on.
Yeah.
He's at a convenience store, and people are trying to come to him. It's oh man, it's exactly the same thing. Like, people try to do the Naruto, Dragon Ball Z things, the same yellow hair, orange outfit. Yeah. You see a lot of those, but I think people that keeps people saying that with anime or manga, it's the character. They attach to the character or the personality of the character. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, and that was the thing that really resonated for me with manga and anime. I really cared about the characters, and when somebody died, they're dead. I mean, at least in my experience with manga and anime, you know, I started with Attack on Titan, and
oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, and they're what I used to call Uncle Ben dead, but I can't use that phrase anymore because Uncle Ben came back. You know, but the stakes matter, man, and you become attached to these characters. You know, it's like with Attack on Titan, nobody really cares that it's Eren Yeager's story. It's just a basic revenge plot. You know, somebody did something terrible to him, and he goes on this lifelong quest to get revenge. Simple ABC story. But it's the characters and the relationships and the stakes that really matter. I mean, it's like, I can't even look at a potato without tearing up anymore, you know, because I immediately think of Sasha. Oh yeah, food's a big thing in there. That's something I don't quite understand about manga and anime culture, is like why food is such a huge deal, but it really is. But you know, I think of Sasha from Attack on Titan. You know, you fell in love with her, this goofy kid who's always hungry. And then, you know, at the end, she finally, you know, she's got this really great moment. And then boom, a gunshot goes right through her chest, you know, and and she's gone. She doesn't come back, man. It really hurts. So it was really the characters and the way they build a character that really resonated with me.
And that show in particular, when they making the decision who should have a Colossal Titan.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's a lot of weight.
Oh, I know. Aaron or Aravan, Armin or Aravan. It's like, ooh, Levi, what are you going to do, man?
Yeah.
I would not want to be Levi in that situation.
Yeah. A horror guy, I don't know if you read this one. I prefer you to read it versus watching it. It's called Promised Neverland.
Good God, that's amazing. I loved it. That did not go the way I thought it was going to go.
Did you watch it or read it?
Both.
Okay.
I watched it first and then read it. Man, that was holy crap. I was not prepared for Promised Neverland.
Yeah, that was that got me. But yeah. But your series, so your manga, so Angel Hunter, I see some mystic stuff. So what is it about? I see some wizard stuff. Like, what is it exactly about?
Yeah. So it's a very basic plot. You know, there's nothing special about the plot. It's, you know, humanity, they've just been expelled from Eden. They've got to claw out an existence in a world that's dominated by 13 fallen angels and an army of kaiju Nephilim. We're going to follow 3 special children. They're going to find out they have powers, they grow, and then as the story develops, they kind of decide if they're going to save the world or destroy it. So, you know, again, simple, common plot, but again, what makes it soar are those characters. You know, and the struggles that they have. It's all about the duality. You know, the yin and the yang, the good, the evil, the light, the dark that we all have inside of us, and how these characters manage that and manage the weight, as you know, as the plot goes on, more and more piles on these kids' backs. And you know, you got to wonder, it's like, how long can they carry this before they break? You know, so it's a really cool world that we're building. I mean, you know, when you go back, I did a lot of research, not only into Christian. When I approach writing religions, I have to treat everything like a mythology. You know, I don't want to disrespect anybody's religious beliefs or anything. So when I'm looking at it, I look for writing purposes. I look at it the same way I would look at Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Norse mythology, whatever. So I drew not only from Christian mythologies, but also from Judaic mythologies, Islamic mythologies, Mesopotamian mythologies, a lot of the apocryphal books. Because while I was researching it, I found out most of the things that we know about angels actually don't come from the Bible. They come from the apocryphal books, and they come from the Quran. Because in the Bible, we don't really talk about the fall very often. It's very, very lightly mentioned in there. But this whole thing about, the Watchers and the Nephilim and the angels who bred with human women and angels hating humans, and all of that comes from either Islam or the apocryphal texts. Very little of that comes from the Bible. So when I was building this world, I pulled in those mythologies. So not only we're going to get angels and demons, but we're going to get jinn, we're going to get Nuklavi, we're going to get Nephilim, all these mythological creatures, and it builds out a pretty rad, fun, exciting world.
Yeah. Speaking of the research you did, I got a book called "Creatures and Items," or creatures and creations in the Bible. It's like stuff that in the Bible, like growing up in church, you don't think about being like a magical item or a magical thing. It points out certain things. So like the angels, what you were saying about the angels, I don't know what term they use. They didn't say angels. They said it word with an S. And growing up, you think they got large bird wings, bird wings, but in the Bible it says they have 6 wings. Like so like
I think that's the seraphim. With that have the 6 wings. Yeah,
you can't see the face.
Exactly. And then of course there's the wheels. Like there's a choir of angels that are literally wheels. And then of course the cherubim are the ones that we think of, the little, the fat little chubby babies with the wings, So man, angelic mythology is pretty damn cool. When you start thinking about, there's 13 choirs of angels, and they're all different. They all have different things about them. I would love to read that book, by the way. That sounds pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I got it from Ollie's.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't Ollie's awesome, man? You can find some crazy good stuff in there,
man. Yeah. So with your American books, you had to start and finish basically. So with this manga, how you plan on doing that one?
So this is probably the most ambitious thing that I've ever written. I have projected this out over 10 volumes of 6. Each volume will comprise basically 6 issues. We're skipping the floppy phase with this. We're not coming out with 24-page issues. We're doing 10 volumes. The smallest volume is 96 pages. They're going to average 120 pages each. So this story is going to play out over well over 1,000 story pages. And I've got it issue 1's in the can. Art's done. Letters are being finished actually this week. Volume 2, I've written the script completely for that. Volume 3, I've got my detailed outline. And then 4 through 10, I've got my loose outlines for all of them. So this is ambitious, but I really feel like we've got a special story with this. Les Garner is my artist, and I think we've got something. I feel the same way about Angel Hunter that I felt about Cult of Dracula before it came out. I really think that Angel Hunter, I think it's going to be something special. I think we're going to get to tell it over those 10 volumes, and I see potential for it to develop into other mediums. Like I could see this becoming an anime. It's got all the elements that you need for that type of adaptation. I think we got something special here.
Cool. And so you got so many volumes and so many chapters you plan on doing. How you plan on releasing it? Like, what's your how fast you want to release it?
So we're going to try to do 2 volumes a year. So volume 1 comes out. The Kickstarter launches April 25th. It'll go to comic book stores after that. And then we would like to do the Kickstarter for volume 2 sometime probably around October. And then it would then release into comic book stores in early 2026. So we'd like to do two volumes a year. Like I said, 96 to 120 pages. So these are big volumes. They're essentially, volume 1 trade paperbacks. Which again is in keeping with the way manga does things, because manga doesn't do the floppy issues. They release the pretty thick digest editions.
Trying to put a manga inside a comic book shop. Is it a marketing curve for that, or how you plan on doing that?
There's definitely going to be a curve for it. I've got a blueprint for kind of how to do this as far as the marketing goes, because when I did Cult of Dracula, the marketing, I kind of had to do it all myself. Like, I literally hired 3 people to work 40 hours a week for 6 weeks, and all they did was call comic book stores to talk about Cult of Dracula. And then I would call those comic book stores. And so I'm planning to do the same thing with Angel Hunter. I'm going to reach out. Good news is I've actually got a relationship with a lot of these stores now, whereas before they didn't know who I was at all. But I'll be calling the stores. I'll be letting them know, like, hey, we've got retailer tiers on the Kickstarter. We've already, our first print run is 2,500 units, which is a rather large order for a Kickstarter. Most Kickstarters, they're around 250 copies. But the reason we're printing so many is because we are going to market directly to comic book stores as well. So, I'll be able to, by cutting out the publisher and cutting out the distributor, I'll be able to go directly to the comic book store and give them a much, much larger margin for them to buy the book and resell it than they would if they purchased it through a distributor, and I'll still make more money. So because when you sell it through a distributor, the distributor takes a huge chunk, and then your publisher takes a huge chunk, and you as the creator, you get a teeny tiny little piece, and but by being able to go direct distribution directly to the retailers, I'll be able to give them a bigger discount, whereas Diamond or Lunar might give them a 40 to maybe a 50% discount on a small press book. I should be able to give them a 60 to a 70% margin, so that they can, by taking my book in, they can make more money selling my book than they would selling Batman, because of the discount that I'll be able to offer them. So hopefully that business plan proves successful. It's not difficult to market manga style books, because I think everybody, except for maybe the old heads who are just stubborn as hell, I think everybody sees that manga it's the thing. It has surpassed superheroes. You go to a convention, kids aren't dressing up as Spider-Man anymore, man. They're dressed up as Goku or Naruto or Luffy from One Piece, So I think stores understand that they have to start carrying manga and manga related type comic books to be able to keep up with what the audience wants.
I see you say is a Shin manga versus a Shonen manga. So why you chose a difference?
So it's again, couple years new to manga, but I've really researched the medium a lot, because if I'm going to do something that's inspired by manga, I want to make sure that I'm paying proper respect for it. So the seinen manga tends to be geared more toward young adult men. It has more mature themes, a little grittier art style, more gore, and a different type of violence is tolerated in the seinen manga. We're drawing inspirations from things like Berserk, Attack on Titan, Battle Angel Alita, those types of manga. Cowboy Bebop is another one that pulls into there. So, it's not, even though we start with them as children, they're going to grow throughout the series. Actually very much like Attack on Titan, because we met the three as little bitty kids, and then boom, we jump to them, being pulled into the Survey Corps, and they grow from there. Unlike a shonen manga where it's, big and colorful, Naruto, Luffy, characters like that. It maybe, I don't know, maybe Shippuden. There are probably some elements of Naruto Shippuden versus Naruto. But yeah, the seinen manga really, it really identifies what we have. So it's very clear to the audience when they're picking it up, like you're not picking up One Piece here. Not that One Piece isn't a really complex and beautiful story. It's just the way it's packaged. It's not Berserk. And Angel Hunter is going to be more in line with Berserk than One Piece.
How'd you end up find your artists being so new to this medium?
So Les, it's funny, Les has been involved in one way or another with every single book I've ever written. He's either been a cover artist, he did backup inks on Prometheus. And Les and I kind of met by accident. A retailer had hired him to do a cover for Cult of Dracula. And Les, when he does a cover for you, he gives you the original artwork. And so he was shipping the original art to the retailer, but somehow it ended up going to my house. So I got that original art, and so I got in contact with Les, and of course we got it back to the retailer. But Les and I became great friends from there on, and we've worked together a million different times. But getting him to get on board with doing manga style art, dude, it was like pulling teeth. I fought with him every single day, every single page. We fought about it, because he didn't want to do the manga style, and he was only half-assing it in the beginning. But then once we finally, he and I sat down and we went through Attack on Titan and we went through Berserk together, and something in those clicked with him. And from that point on, he got it. He went back and he reworked a lot of the art he had already done. And man, it was magic after that. I mean, it was absolutely magic. Les he's like a brother to me. I mean, we fight like hell, just like brothers, but we love each other. And yeah, we have a really good working relationship. We speak each other's language, I can see in my head the way he's going to draw something before I even write it. And he can anticipate what I'm going to write and how I want to see it on the page. And I think that's very, very important. It's important with anything you do in comic books, but especially if you're going to project something out over a very long period of time, I think having that rapport, that relationship between writer and artist it's very, very important.
Cool. Just to close out on this segment, you said something about the Cult of Dracula being optioned before.
Yeah. So Cult of Dracula was optioned the day issue 1 hit the shelves. It was optioned as originally going to be a film, a 90-minute film. That company ended up selling the option to another company called BR Films. BR Films decided to do a television series rather than a film. We actually had Tony Todd was attached to play Agent Brom, and they were working on some other, actually some really, really good name casting. Jacob Elordi from Euphoria was one of the people that they were locking in. When Tony passed away, that kind of put things on hiatus because, going to have to recast Brahm. So right now, nothing's really happening with it at the moment. The last that I spoke with BR Films, they were working to recast Agent Brahm and then planned to resume production after that. So, from a creative standpoint, it kind of hurts my heart that it's on pause. But from a financial standpoint, it's not that bad of a thing because if their option expires and that's the way options work. It's like they agree to do this in a certain amount of time. And if they don't do that, then the option expires and it comes back to you. So that's kind of what happened the first time. It was optioned, then their option ran out. So it got re-optioned. So I got paid twice. So, if they don't do something within the terms of their option, then the rights come back to me and I'll option it again and get paid for a third time, which, for a comic book creator, getting paid is sometimes a rare, but very exciting thing.
Options. Did you go through the motions getting an option, or was that through Second Sight?
That was a lot of me. Second Sight by that point didn't really have anything to do. This is after
not Second Sight. I'm sorry, Source Point.
Source Point was very helpful. We had a few meetings. Travis McIntyre was in on some of the meetings with the producers. But a lot of it was me and my agent working with the different film companies. The first company, Sure Pictures, that optioned it, I had a relationship with the producer, Jerry Carita. I did a show for Netflix called Swap Shop. I was the comic book buyer on there, and Jerry was the producer of Swap Shop. He also had a film company called Sure Pictures. He was just absolutely.
You said Jerry who?
Carita.
I interviewed him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's doing Samurai Cicada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I interviewed him. Yeah.
I love him. We're good friends, man. He's a good dude, man.
Really, yeah. He good. Yeah.
So yeah, Jerry. My relationship with Jerry helped with that, and then the second time around, it was easier because my agent handled most of those negotiations.
Okay. Last question. You said the X-Men inspired your story. Well, you said a lot of things. You said how you display your characters, how you write your stories and format. So, like, what is that? Because X-Men has a lot of characters. Now that you go into mangas have a lot of characters. So I see the influence, but how did all that influence your writing style? Like, what was like the thing dong?
It was so. It's a lot. Everything comes down to relationships and the way the X-Men characters relate to one another and the way their interpersonal relationships are built has very heavily inspired the way that I build my characters and their relationships. Because especially when you get into the more modern X-Men, basically post Joss Whedon, the X-Men don't really like each other very much, but sorry, my dog walked up. I had to give her a pet. They don't really like each other, but they have to work with each other because they have this shared common goal, or this shared enemy. So that there's something about the way that relationship just cooks together. People who have to tolerate each other and have to learn to exist and work together, even though they don't really like each other. And then also the X-Men, it's a lot of gray. There's not a lot of black and white, good and evil in there. It's a very complicated way to structure. And as you said, there's a ton of characters. So being able to build that pantheon of all these different crisscrosses and, things like that X-Men, trying to sum it down into a very short sentence. Oh, hi, Gypsy. Go lay down, baby. She says hi. We haven't interviewed her yet. It's really the way to how how the X-Men manage a team, and a huge team that has inspired me, because my books have a lot of characters too, and so being able to have that kind of hierarchy, all those relationships, X-Men really taught me how to do that.
Yeah. Growing up, watch a show, you get a book here or there, about X-Men. Yep. I didn't really see that relationship thing you was talking about until I really locked in reading comics. I think The Death of Wolverine. So after that, they had all those spinoff books.
Yep.
And one was like all the females he was involved with, and I was like, Storm? Why is Storm there? So it was like Storm, Road, Julie, and I want to say Psylocke. I might be wrong.
So it could be, like, I think Psylocke was in that one, yeah.
And I was like, man, that's right. And then I seen that. Then the Core Age, I read all those books, and it was a spinoff story, maybe a one shot. Wolverine, he got acquired to a mission, and he said he would do it by himself. They didn't want him to do it by himself, so he went to go get the best person he want by his side during the mission. Yep. He came and got Scott Summers. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Scott Summers. He's like, exactly. I may not like him, but when it comes down to this, just nobody better decide. I was like, man, I never thought he'd go pick.
You're right. Like, out of all the people,
I thought Nightcrawler. I thought like, oh, he's gonna get Nightcrawler, yeah.
Somebody, yeah, or Colossus or something. Somebody he actually kind of gets along with.
Yeah.
Nope, it's Scott.
Or the Sabretooth when he died. Sabretooth took up the role of Wolverine. Yep. I was like, Sabretooth, it's gonna cut dry, and he's like, stuff like that.
It's that respect they have for their rivals. It's like they might not like each other, and sometimes they might actually really just hate each other, but there's also that respect, and they recognize greatness. It's the X-Men, the complexity of the characters and the relationships, man. I can't think of anything in comics that even comes close to it.
The only thing close, it would be like the Lanterns or the Robins. The only thing close. Because
I can feel you especially with the Robins. Yeah, I can feel that the way that it's a family. Yeah.
The Lanterns be the next because so many of them go to a different corps and come back, or blatantly don't like each other. Like Hal Jordan, he killed majority of them, but he still held the greatest.
Yeah.
And you got Guy Gardner and John Stewart; they're super tight.
Yep. God, I love their relationship together too, man. That's good. They play off each other super well, and I am very excited for the Lanterns television series. That's good. That's
the teaser.
Yeah, Ooh, it looks so good. John, man, that looks so good.
Yeah. I don't know if it's AI or whatever, but anime. You watch my my Adventures with Superman?
No, I haven't.
All right, that's a Superman anime. I'm not a Superman fan.
Okay.
But that if you know the gist of Superman, Smallville, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen and all that stuff, watch that show. 2 seasons.
My Original Superman?
No, okay. my Adventures.
My Adventures. Yeah. I have seen. I saw I have a comic book store and we play that on loop quite a bit. So I've not sat down and watched it, but I've, watched it in the background. But yeah, now that you're the third person this week who has said I need to sit down and actually watch that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is that's cool.
That and of course Creature Commandos for you.
So good. Creature Commandos is amazing.
Yeah, so I like those shows that pretty good. But
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man's really good too.
And you know what? I thought it was over. Apparently last episode was recently.
Yeah.
I thought it was over when what happened? When Doc attacked Tombstone and his girlfriend. I thought I was like the cliffhanger. Yeah. But no, it kept going. I was like, wait a minute.
There's more. And it's so good, man. It keeps getting show keeps surpassing my expectations.
One thing I don't like about the show, when somebody else brought it up on TikTok or YouTube, whatever I seen it on. And you being a writer in both, film and comics, Lincoln, that's a terrible character because what gang or what group would take the star football player and want to be in the game? Like, that don't make sense logically, real life, or anything.
Yeah, no, there's kind of shoehorned that one in there. Yeah.
Yeah, because they kept saying he's going to the pros and he's going to the pros to help his family get out the hood, and he's the star of the hood, and just crap.
You're like, really?
Yeah, that I have a red flag on, and it's something with Peter. I can't remember now, but like something how they intertwining the MCU Peter with that Peter, like the camera he had in Homecoming.
Right.
They show where that camera came from in that show, and I was like, I get it, but at the same time, if he doesn't go to like that one Venom thing happen, and so he don't have the same circle of friends, the same thing doesn't happen. Yeah, he still find that camera no matter what. So what's significant about the camera?
Exactly. It's like, I think Marvel, we don't need all this multiverse stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's like I said, we don't need those little things like that because it just opens up way too many questions and plot conflicts and things like
what
that.
Ifs?
Yeah. Although I do love the What If Disney Plus, man, especially season 1.
I liked it so much I had to buy this. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. First appearance.
Nice.
First comic book appearance. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got for that segment. My last segment. It's called Digging the Crates. Digging through comic books, finding books like that, or finding old albums for your parents to listen to, vinyls. I think go back through this interview and pull out something so people go home with something. Options. And going back to that, you said you can see your manga being an anime. Mm-hmm. So I guess being a screenwriter and now doing the comics, is that a thing that you want to happen? Is for it to get option, I guess, for the money, but is that all your properties you wanted to write it so it do get option? Is that something you know?
Yeah, I think that's got to always be in the back of your mind, because when you're independent creator, writing creator-owned works, you're basically your own corporation, your own. So yeah, when your books really are IPs, and you want to maximize the profitability of those IPs in every way possible. So yeah, you definitely want them to go on to other mediums, but I think it's a very fine line. You have to be careful that you're not writing it to be something else. Because if you go into it and you're thinking, okay, I'm writing this to be a television series, then you might do things that don't necessarily work for it in the comic book form. You might make choices that you shouldn't. So I think that's always got to be in the back of your head. How to maximize the value of the IP. But the first and foremost, most important thing is telling a good story. But with Angel Hunter, from the first page I wrote, I saw this in two formats. I saw this as a book, and I saw it as an animated series. And I think, with anime and manga, I think that's pretty, there's a lot of synergy between the two, because a lot of manga do become anime, and the anime adaptations of the manga are extremely faithful to the manga, like Naruto.
Except Promised Neverland.
Well, yeah. Okay, yeah. That's the exception to the rule. But like, Naruto, I watched the first episode, and then I was at San Diego Comic-Con as a guest, and got so lucky. I shouldn't tell this because I'll probably get him in trouble, but I got one of the people from the Viz media booth to hold me a copy of the the special edition Naruto Volume 1, the 25th anniversary edition, that kept selling out every day. But I got one. And so I was watching the anime and I was looking at the manga, and like the first, I'm like, my God, these are the first shots. You know, these pages, they just took them and made them shots. So I think there's a lot of synergy with manga and anime that makes that possible. So yeah,
it's basically a storyboard.
Yeah, that's exactly what a comic book can be for a screenplay. It's storyboarding. You know, and you have to keep that, again, keep it in the back of your head, but don't compromise the story just because you think this would work better for the TV series, if that makes sense.
It does. All right, my last thing for you. Give me a pitch for your Angel Hunter for people who's listening to this while your Kickstarter is running, and people who might listen to this later on, they want to purchase it in the comic book shop, website, whatever.
Yeah, so Angel Hunter is a seinen manga inspired epic dark fantasy told in the American comic book style. It's about humanity's first strides after being expelled from Eden. Humans have to claw out an existence in a world dominated by 13 fallen angels and an army of kaiju Nephilim.
Okay, cool. That's dope, man. And where can people follow you in Journey or see what you got going on?
Yeah, so you can find me on all the social media. It's just at Rich Davis on those. You can also follow my World of Dracula page, which is at World of Dracula. And then Angel Hunter has its own Facebook, Instagram. It's at Angel Hunter on all the socials. And of course, if you follow one, you can link to all the others. But I'm very active on Facebook and Instagram. Got a really good community of people I interact with. Discord is another one. I'm on there quite a bit. So then, of course, my worldofdracula.com website. You can visit that and find out about me and also all about Dracula. I put different blogs up there about different aspects of Dracula. So, but yeah, it's super simple. At Rich Davis, at Angel Hunter, at World of Dracula.
Cool. And once again, man, thanks for coming on. And hopefully you get all 60 chapters of, Angel Hunter, out.
Thank you.
And you get option again.
I hope so.
Right,
that's the goal, man.